Hi, it's Pete. Okay, hi. We did promise that we'd actually have a look at the Gmail screen in more detail. So this little video clip is just to sort of walk you through the various aspects of the Gmail screen. Now, it doesn't actually help you in terms of setting up a Gmail account. So if you haven't got a Gmail account, you need to go to Google, type in Gmail, and then there'll be a set of instructions that will take you through the process of how to create an account. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so here I am on the standard Gmail screen. And the first thing you'll actually see, excuse me, is that we've actually got the my emails are actually listed here. Now my emails are actually, the ones I haven't read are in bold, and the ones I have read are in the sort of the lighter colour. So I can see which emails I've actually read and which emails I haven't read. Down the side here, we've got these boxes. Now the first box just allows me to select an email, and once I've selected an email, then these other menu items appear at the top. So if I unselect, they've gone. If I select, they're back. And these are allowing me to do things such as archive an email, to report an email as spam. And if I report an email as spam, then what would actually happen is that the email address would actually be noted as being a supplier of spam, and therefore further emails from that address are likely to go into my spam folder. And we'll show you the spam folder in a little while. Here I've got the ability to delete an email, so I could just click onto that to delete it. These other ones allow me to actually move a file or to actually change a label. So I'm just going to click onto this one to unselect that. Now, underneath here, you can then see that we've actually got a couple of tabs as well. So I can go here and see any emails I've got relating to social, and I can see any promotions that's actually in place. There's no promotions there at the moment. So I'm clicking onto primary, back to primary to see my emails. Now, next to my selection box, I've got my little star. If I click onto the star, then effectively what's happened is that I've marked that as being a starred email. Now, awarding a gold star to an email allows me to actually say, oh yeah, this email is important to me at the moment. And so I can actually just put a star on it. And down the side here, can you see how it says starred? And that would allow me to go and see any starred emails that I actually had. So if I start another email, I can go across to starred and I can see my starred emails. So that just allows me a very easy way of selecting any information that I feel is important, and I can just put it off to one side. If I want the Google to actually help me out with important email, then the next box across allows me to click to say this email has been marked as important. Now, when we mark something as important, what Google tries to do is to work from the email address and the content of the email, the title, to say that this type of email is important to us. And therefore, when new email comes in, it will actually say, is this email important? And if it is, then it would actually put it into the important box for us. So the difference between a star and the important button is that the important button Google would try to learn from. The star, it would just allow us to indicate that something is important, and we can actually just star it. And so again, we've got the inbox, the star, and the important. Again, just looking down the side here, I've then got my sent mail. And surprise, surprise, if I send an email, then it would actually go into my sent mail box. So that allows me to go back and see exactly what I've sent to people and when. Drafts is when I'm creating an email. Google will try to help me to keep my emails and not lose them because of machine failure or whatever by adding them immediately into drafts. So for example, if I go on to compose, then over here we've actually got the ability to see I can compose a message. So if I set this to ask Pete a question at gmail.com, and the subject could be Gmail, and then I can put some contents in. Now already, can you see how the word, the number 1 has appeared next to drafts to say that I've got one email in my drafts folder. At the bottom of the compose box as well, it now says saved to say that this has actually been saved as a draft. So if I now start to type, the boy stood on burning deck. Now down here it now doesn't say anything, but if we wait a moment it now says saved, and what's happened is that that draft has now been updated. So if the machine failed, I could come back in here, check in my drafts, and that email would actually be in place for me just to continue with. Now also at the bottom here there's a little bin that allows me to discard the draft. So I'm just going to discard that draft for the moment because I don't particularly want to send that email. So there's the first box. We've then got circles. Now if I click onto circles, then what it does is it shows me the list of Google Plus circles that I've actually got. Now from here I can send an email to the people inside of my Google Plus circles. However, this is not the contacts list. The contacts list is elsewhere, and I'll show you that in a moment. So Google Circles allows us to communicate with the people in our circles. We've then got a more option. If I click onto more, then here we can actually see any chats that I've been involved in. And then here is where we've actually got the spam. So if I've declared content as spam, or Google has declared content as spam, then it would actually be in the spam folder. Now sometimes when you're receiving emails from organisations or charities or businesses, they can inadvertently end up in the spam folder because they've failed the spam tests that Google would actually apply to its email. Now often that will be because of badly worded headers or things of that nature. So if you're expecting an email and it hasn't arrived, it's sometimes worth just checking in your spam folder to see if it's there. Here we've then got the bin. So if I delete an email, it would appear in the bin. So again, I could then go and have a look in the bin for an email I've deleted. Now note that any email that's actually here in spam or bin would only be here for 30 days. After 30 days, it will be deleted out of here. Now again, I can actually then choose what I want to do with this. So for example, one of the things I could do is I could actually pick this up and move this up into the top section, so that if I was going to want to look in my spam on a regular basis, I could do so. I could also move it back down and put it back down inside of there. I could also do the same with all mail. Now all mail would normally sit inside of this area, however I like it up here, so that's why I've moved it up into the top area so I can see all my mail. Down below again we've then got categories, which we're not going to be looking at the moment, but it would allow me to categorize my email, and then below there I've got Hangouts and things of that nature. So moving back up a little bit, here we've then got the Gmail button. Now Gmail is it's got this little downward arrow next to it. And if I click onto it, I can then see contacts, and this is where I can add contacts and look at my contacts and see what's actually happening. Now there's various ways of adding a contact. So for example, I can add a new contact just by clicking on the new contact button and filling in the form. If I'm in an email exchange with somebody, then again that would actually add them to the contacts list. So therefore I can come here and actually see the contacts. So I could add a contact by clicking on new contact. I could add a contact by add to my contacts just by clicking on there and typing in an email address. So again, I can actually play about with that to get the contacts in. Under contacts, I've got tasks. Now tasks allows me to create a to-do list. So I could create a to-do list of things that I wanted to do. So perhaps I want to add compose email video. So if I want to create a compose email video, then I can actually put that on my to-do list and set that in place. Clicking on the plus sign would allow me then to add a second one in. So as you can see, I've now got my to-do list starting to build up. Let me just close that. And so if I go back then to my Gmail, we're back where we actually started. So across here, across at the other side here, I've now got some other bits and pieces. Now here, I've got the settings. So if I click onto settings, then I can actually see the different types of settings that we've got available. Now, because of the layout I've got for my screen at the moment, these are not going to make a great deal of difference in the way that I've actually got it set up. Here I've got Configure Inbox, and this would allow me to select which tabs I wanted to actually see at any one time. And again, on the whole, I tend to leave those where they are. Again, under Settings, I've got the major settings, which would allow me to see all sorts of bits and pieces for settings and labels and accounts and filters. So by all means, feel free to go and have a play and a look around those. But again, we'll actually have a look at those in a little bit more detail in a different video. Here then, I've got themes, and themes would allow me to change the layout of how I wanted my, my Google to look. So again, I could actually choose a particular theme. So if I wanted my background to look, I don't know, in a rose colour or in a mustard colour, then I could choose to do so. I tend to leave mine pretty much as is because I've got absolutely no preference. Down here again, we've got Take a Tour, and Take a Tour would allow us to take a tour, but we've just had a bit of a tour around the system, so I don't know that we'd actually need to do that again. So here I am, back at the beginning and all ready for work. I hope that helps. I look forward to talking to you later. Cheers then, bye.